Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. My name is Dustin Cormier. This is another episode of How to Rock Astrology. Today, we are going to be discussing the last little bits of an episode in a series I've already been doing. This is the last little bits of Swati Nakshatra. In particular, we're going to be discussing some work from this wonderful author named Radha. And this comes from the divine forces of the lunar nakshatras, describing Vayu, which is considered to be the god of wind, who is the reigning god of this nakshatra. And of course, this is a continuation of my Swati Nakshatra video. So look for my 27 nakshatra series for the full video, which includes more great information on this nakshatra. You'll probably be able to see me I'm probably going to be able to show it on this section of the video at the end of this video, at the end screen. Welcome. So today we're going to be finishing up on our conversation about Vayu. And Vayu, again, is the deity that lords over the nakshatra of Swati. For anybody who is a native of Swati Nakshatra, you might do well to learn the Vedic constituents of the stories about the deity, Vayu, as it appears in the Vedas and the Puranas. And that's why we're reading this today. So let's dig into it. Again, this comes from The Divine Forces of the Lunar Nakshatras by Radha. Let's jump right in to our first section of chapter 23, which is of course about Vayu, which is Indra's charioteer. We have a quote at the very beginning that says, "Harness, O Vayu, to thy chariot 100 well-fed tawny steeds, yea, or 1,000 steeds, and let thy chariot come to us with might." This is the Rig Veda, Mandala 4, chapter 48. Or verse 48. So the beginning section, we are going to learn a little bit about Vayu and his team of horses. The Rig Vedic hymns to Vayu's dedication exalt this god of the wind and his chariot, which is drawn by 10, 100, and sometimes 1,000 fleet-footed coursers. It's a very fast type of horse. There's several mention of Vayu and his steeds all throughout the Rig Vedas. Seated by Vayu's side is Indra, monarch of the gods, whom Vayu escorts each morning to the Soma Yagna. The Soma Yagna, if you've been reading in this book series, the Soma Yagna, the Yagna is a sacrifice ceremony, and Soma is a plant that comes from a certain residue. Some say it's an amrita that comes from sacrifice. The Soma Yagna ceremony is a very ancient ceremony, which was considered to have been all the pieces, all the stones, all the altar was supposed to be a microcosm of the Vedic pantheon. And so all of the great Vedic literature that we talk about with the nakshatras is contained in the Soma Yagna ceremony. And each god has a place in the Soma Yagna ceremony, which is very interesting and cool. This is back in the day when there was no papyrus, no paper. So they used to do things like this. They'd craft mantras and encoded ceremonies that would contain the information of their culture, right? Because they didn't have paper. So, one of the quotes from the Rig Veda reads, "Indra and Vayu, drawn by teams, ye heroes, come today and drink of the bright Soma juice." That comes from Rig Veda Mandala 2. So, hastily arriving at the sacrificial grounds, Indra and Vayu receive the first Soma pressing of the day. For his faculty of swiftness, Vayu is awarded the epithet Sarvashighira, the swiftest of all. Sarvashighira. Tricky word. During the Ashvamedha, the horse sacrifice, Vayu is beseeched to bestow speed to the horse that must quickly find his way back to the sacrificial grounds. Vayu indeed is, among the gods, the quickest, the best runner in a race. Thus, by reciting that formula, he puts swiftness into the horse that's being sacrificed. Therefore, the horse is, among the animals, the quickest, the best runner in a race. That whole quote comes from the Taittiriya Brahmana, which was written 4,000 years ago. Very ancient stuff. This god of the wind is invisible to the naked eye. Yet, from afar, his bellowing voice and the deafening sound of his 1,000 horse-drawn chariot ostentatiously announce his approach. Oh, the wind's chariot! Oh, its power and glory! Crashing it goes, hath a voice of thunder. It makes the regions red and touches heaven as it moves the dust of the earth. His voice is heard, his shape is ever viewless. Let us adore this wind with our oblation. Comes from Rig Veda, Mandala 10, verse 168. The flames of the sacred fire dance in fervent excitement as Vayu makes his approach to the sacrificial grounds. Vayu's profundity is the power to purify or cleanse. That's Pavayati. His Rig Vedic epithets include Matarishvan, swelling or breathing, and Vata, which is of course wind. Vayu's daunting force and violent movements elsewhere earn him the name Ishanam, which is most powerful. Particularly memorable is the appellation Satataga, always moving, for, possessed of unbounded energy, Vayu rarely takes time out to rest. Traveling on the paths of air's mid-region, no single day doth he take rest or slumber. It's Rig Veda Mandala 10. Vayu is always working in the background. Vayu fancies his freedom and the exhilaration that comes from roaming at will throughout the world. The Taittiriya Brahmana contrasts his constant movement and wandering to the steadfastness of the realms. Suitably, his sacrificial wish is for perpetual movement in all the worlds. Vayu, the wind, desired, "May I acquire the faculty of moving at will in these worlds." He offered that well-known oblation of the milk of a cow, which has had only one calf, to Vayu, i.e. to himself, and to Nishtya, who is also called Swati and who is his nakshatra. Consequently, he acquired the faculty of moving at will in these worlds. So, on this occasion, after the chief oblation, he, the sacrificer, offers the additional oblations, saying, to Vayu, Swaha, to Nishtya, Swaha, to the faculty of moving at will, Swaha, to conquest, Swaha. And that comes from the stotras of the Taittiriya Brahmana. Excuse me. The ancient appellation for Swati is Nishtya, translated as outcast. The Surya Siddhanta suggests that its name indicates the remote location of this nakshatra from the ecliptic. So this goes to say that, just as we talked about in my episode discussing the Taittiriya Brahmana Sutra of this nakshatra, we find that the star that holds Swati's energy is very far away from the solar ecliptic. So it's far away in this way. And likewise, Nistya denotes Vayu's tendency never to stay long enough in one place to develop a sense of belonging. Hence, unlike Grihapati, which is Agni as the household fire, whose abode is the home of every man, Vayu is acclaimed the houseless Anagara one, the one who does not have one set home or hearth. Other epithets call attention to Vayu's close association with Agni, a devata who accepts the sacrificial oblations on behalf of all the gods. Here, Vayu is Pranir Yagnanam. Yagnanam. That's the carrier of sacrifices. Vayu is also called Turnir Havyayat. That's the runner who carries the offerings. The wind carrying the fire. Kind of makes sense. This aptly named wind god speedily transports the oblations in the form of sacrificial smoke to the realm of the gods. For Vayu runs in an instant through the whole universe. He carries the offerings to the gods. That quote comes from the Aitareya Brahmana. Aitareya Brahmana, correct. It's interesting, it makes you think about how the wind being the connection between Agni. You know, lots of people can put themselves in lots of austerity, and they're bludgeoning themselves and smashing their head against a mountain in order to be forgiven of their sins or to practice austerity. But if their mind, if the wind is not carrying that tapas to the divine, then the connection, the pain you're putting yourself through is pointless. It really takes concentration and devotion on God for any sacrifice to be carried through from Agni to the divine. So it's interesting that Vayu is the vehicle of Agni. Now, as the life force, or the breath, the prana of man, Vayu is eulogized for a long life. Filling our hearts with health and joy, may Vata, another name for Vayu, breathe his balm upon us. His balm. May he prolong our days of life. That's Rig Veda Mandala 10, it's chapter 186. Now, included in his sacrificial boons are strong sons who are born in quick succession. It's from Rig Veda Mandala 7, chapter 90. Considered an important rain god, Vayu delivers abundant rainfall to his devotees, just like the wind carries the clouds. In concert with Indra, this wind god is summoned to assist in the destruction of adversaries. Bending the points of the enemy's bows, Vayu prevents foes from releasing death-inflicting arrows, while Indra breaks their arms. Elsewhere, Vayu shakes away all foes by rocking the world with his formidable winds. Vayu unites with Nishtya, his nakshatra, he, the sharp-horned bull, loudly bellowing. Shaking the worlds, let Matarishvan, that's Vayu, drive away the hatreds and the hostilities. That's another nakshatra stotra from the Taittiriya Brahmana. It's like an extra commentary on the Taittiriya Brahmana. Here, Vayu's winds are depicted as razor sharp, like the sharp-horned bull. This explains Swati, which in a way resonates with a sword. And that's why Swati is the more contemporary name for this nakshatra. Needless to say, people hear and feel Vayu's approaching visit well before they witness its aftermath. Finally, like most other devatas, Vayu is lauded for strength and riches. Come to us, O Lord of vitality, to bestow upon us great wealth and glorious strength. We have been offering to you, O giver of abundant wealth, so that you give much to us, O giver of gifts. It's interesting to think of the Vayu, the wind, in ancient days when they were crafting these sutras. It's really true that the wind, you'd feel and hear it coming, and then it would be there, and then the aftermath would be left in its wake, right? Now, this next chapter is going to be talking about the three lights of the universe. Let's see what that's about. The Agnihotra is one of the most important ceremonies in India, for it is performed each morning and evening. It is considered by many as a ceremony in reverence to Agni, Surya, and Prajapati. Yet, importantly, the Taittiriya Brahmana reminds us that it also honors Vayu. The following version of the Agnihotra is performed by the Yajamana and his wife, accompanied by a priest. The principal offering, havis, is the milk of a cow. In the evening, as the setting sun transfers its light to Agni, an oblation is offered to the god of fire and then to the sun. Agni is the light. The light is Surya, Svaha. In the morning, when the light once again prevails, the sun receives its first oblation, and the god of fire the second. Surya is the light. The light is Agni, Svaha, so it's switched. Both of those come from the Taittiriya Brahmana, chapter 2. These evening and morning oblations are followed by a second silent mantra to Prajapati. Agni and Surya are considered the pillars of the transitional points, the sandhis of the day. The final moments before dusk sets in or dawn fades away. By their sides are Nakta, the goddess of dusk, and Usas, the goddess of dawn. The performance of the Agnihotra at these times ensures a smooth transition between the day and night and day. Shastra explains how the Agnihotra received its name. In the beginning, Prajapati desired, "May a being endowed with a living soul be born to me." He offered oblations, and beings endowed with a living soul was born to him, namely Agni, Vayu, and Aditya, Surya. That again comes from Taittiriya Brahmana, chapter 2. Now, Agni, Vayu, and Surya likewise wish to give birth to living souls, so they in turn offer oblations. A cow is born from their joint offerings. Eyeing the cow, the three contend for her milk, each claiming the cow to be his creation. Unable to agree, they approach Father Prajapati for a decision. Unbeknownst to Vayu, Agni, and Surya, So unbeknownst to Vayu, Agni and Surya enter into a secret pact. Should Prajalpati choose one of them, the other will share in the cow's milk. So these two are in it with each other, but Vayu is not included. Prajalpati proclaims that the cow has been born from Agni's offerings. For this reason, the offering of morning and evening oblations to the sacrificial fire is named Agnihotra, the oblation of Agni. Now, notably upset for having not received a share, Vayu requests an oblation. Consenting, Agni and Surya respond. When, after having put the vessel of milk on the Garhapatya fire, the householder hearth, they, the priests carrying the milk, will quickly go towards the Ahavaniya fire, the hearth of the gods, and say, "To the wind thee." By doing that, they will gratify thee. Thus, all three godheads partake of the sacrificial oblations of milk during the morning and evening Agnihotra. It's cool because the gods themselves are creating these ceremonies through the Veda. It's like the universe speaking through the Veda. Now, as the two lights of the world, Agni and Surya, understandably deserve the sacrificial oblations. The same is true of Prajalpati, for he created all three gods and endowed them with living souls. So why does Vayu merit special recognition at the Agnihotra? Prajalpati creates Agni, Vayu, and Surya through sacrifice, thereby yoking in purpose the three devatas since the beginning of time. Vayu is a god of the atmosphere. Above him is the heavenly light of the sun, and below the earthly light of Agni. It's, it makes me think of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit as Vayu. The ancient scriptures declare Vayu as well to be a light, the light of the atmosphere. The rulers of this world are the Vasus, and its light is Agni. The rulers of the atmosphere are the Rudras, and its light is Vayu. The rulers of yonder world are the Adityas, and its light is Surya. And that comes from Taittiriya Brahmana, chapter 3, the Nakshatra Stotras. Thus, of the 33 divine forces, Agni, Vayu, and Surya serve as lights for the three realms. It's also noted that Agni, Vayu, and Surya are also connected with the three Vedas. The Rig Veda belongs to the Prithvi, earth, and has Agni as its essence. The Yajur Veda belongs to Antariksha, mid-space, and Vayu is its essence. Then the Sama Veda belongs to Jyos, heaven, and Surya is its essence. Thus, for the performance of sacrifice, i.e. the knowledge of the Yajur Veda, Vayu is the essential power. Wow. Cool, because the Yajur Veda belongs to Antariksha, which is mid-space, and it's in Vayu is therefore the essence of the Yajur Veda. Since these sacrifice ceremonies are contained in what's considered to be the Yajur Veda, Vasu would be the arbiter of its proliferation. Very cool to read. So, residing in the middle, Vayu is the uniting force between the light from above and that from below. Vayu is the agent, the life force of prana, by which spirit and matter commingle. Vayu transports cosmic intelligence, or spirit, into the subtle sheaths of the body. Wow. He also carries the sensations of the external world of matter to the sense organs and manas, the sensory mind. In this way, he serves as the vital link between living beings, spirit, and matter. So Vayu is the link between spirit and matter inside of living beings. The link that allows beings to be living beings on a planet. Very interesting. We have a note here that says, in the much later Sankhya philosophy, Purusha represents spirit and object, and Prakriti, the dynamic, ever-changing field of matter, and subject. So Purusha is the object of spirit, and Prakriti is the dynamic, ever-changing field of matter, and the subject. Purusha and Prakriti engage in a lila, a dance of perfect mirrored unison. Such divine reflection between spirit of heaven and matter of earth is possible only with the continual flow and exchange of prana. It's Vayu. Wow, that's so psychedelic. I could talk about that, but I should stick to our reading here, but my brain is bursting on that one. Now, defining the aim of the Vedic sacrifice, Vladimir Yatsenko states the following, and this comes from his Foundations of Indian Psychology, Volume 1, Theories and Concepts. He says, the union of Agni, Vayu, and Surya was considered to be the aim of the Vedic sacrifice. It's the union of these three, where Agni was seen as the essence of earth, Prithvi, Vayu as the essence of the space in between, Antariksha, and Surya the essence of heaven, Jyotish. So if these three fires are united into one fire, then the aim of the sacrifice is realized. There's really a Christian Gnostic resonance that's being described here that it's blowing my mind. I got to dig more into this. I didn't know that Vayu was conveyed in this way. It's very, very awesome. Now, and just even thinking of the fact that Vayu, the wind, is Indra's chariot. We were considered Indra something as the son of God, of all power. Just like how Christ used the symbol of the Holy Spirit to do what Christ did, to perform miracles. So his apostles would be filled with that spirit. It's almost similar to Vayu as the Holy Spirit in this way, as the vehicle of Jesus, in the same way that Vayu is the vehicle of Indra. But I digress. Let's stick to our Hinduism here. During the Agnihotra, the creative force of the universe, Prajapati, and the three lights of the world, Agni, Surya, and Vayu, are singled out. Yet this Taittiriya Brahmana passage concludes by stating that all gods are honored at this time. For Agni accepts the oblations of milk on behalf of the 33 divine forces. Verily, it, the Agnihotra, is to the Vasus, to the Rudras, to the Adityas, to the Vishvadevas, to Prajapati, to the Brahman, Brihaspati, to all these 33 deities without exception, that oblations are offered by him, the sacrificer. So while they are singled out, it ultimately still goes to all the deities, all the gods, every part of the cosmology of reality. Next up, we're going to read a little bit about the race for Soma in this next following chapter. We read that Vayu is awarded the special privilege of being first among the gods to partake of the morning Soma libation, which is really saying a lot. O Vayu, drinker of the pure Soma. And, this is a quote, but first there's a footnote on this word Soma. Let's just quickly look at this footnote here. The descriptive word pure, drinker of the pure Soma. The word pure is used to indicate Vayu's preference for Soma without any admixtures, such as water, milk, honey, etc. So Vayu is the one who drinks it pure, without any filler. So that's interesting, So let's read this quote from the Rig Veda. O Vayu, drinker of the pure Soma, to thee the rapture-bringing juice is offered, whose first draught, God, thou takest as thy portion. It's Rig Veda, Mandala 7, chapter 92. Vayu is urged by the priests to drink the pressed Soma till it makes thee, Vayu, joyful. Same mandala, Mandala 7. With Indra by his side, Vayu travels in his 1,000 horse-drawn chariot by the most direct route to the sacrificial grounds. May the ever-running steeds, the chariot horses of Vayu, who move in a straight line, bring the vigorous Indra in a car of beautiful wheels towards the old and the new food, lest the nectar, the Soma of Vayu, be wasted. Then Indra shares in the morning Soma libation with Vayu. It's almost as if to say that Vayu needs to take the Soma first in order to get as quick to Indra, as quick to all of our souls as possible. Give the vehicle of the Holy Spirit of Vayu of the wind to Vayu, so that Vayu can come to the self and the soul of Indra, the god of the Lord of the soul, as quickly as possible, so that therefore the Soma can come more quickly to the soul. How it came to be that Vayu and Indra are awarded the first cup of the morning Soma libation is recounted in an Aitareya Brahmana legend. All the gods desire the first sip of the morning Soma draught. May I drink first? Might I drink first? It's Aitareya Brahmana, chapter 2, section 2, verse 4. Now, unable to reach consensus, the gods devise a contest. They will participate in a race. Whoever is the first to cross the finish line drawn across the sacrificial grounds will receive the initial cup of Soma. On your mark, get set, go. The gods run as quickly as possible. Vayu nears the finish line first, with Indra close behind. Thinking he might still win, Indra throws himself at the goal, but his body lands across the finish line after Vayu has already crossed its threshold. Not accustomed to finishing second, Indra does his best to persuade Vayu that the race is a tie, but Vayu argues that he won fair and square. Artfully negotiating, Indra secures a fourth of Vayu's cup of Soma. He, Indra, then said, "We both have arrived at the goal together. Let us both of us be winners of the race." Vayu answered, "No, I alone am the winner of the race. Indra said, let the third part of the prize be mine. Let both of us be winners in this race. Vayu said, no, I alone am the winner of the race. Indra persistently said, let then the fourth part of the prize be mine. Let us both be winners of the race. To this, Vayu agreed and invested him with the right to the fourth part of the first Soma cup presented. Again, that's Aitareya Brahmana, Mandala 2, Chapter 4. Hence, Vayu and Indra are first to partake of the morning Soma libations. You can also see a little bit about how Vayu earned the first Soma libation of the morning in the chapter on the collective array of Vasus, that's Dhanishta, the slaying of the demon serpent. So that'll be in our Dhanishta Nakshatra video on the Vasudevas, or the Vasus at least. So that was a little footnote that I had to add there. So what we see ultimately is that Vayu and Indra are first to partake of the morning Soma libations. A quote from the Rig Veda, Mandala 4, Chapter 46 reads, may steeds 1,000 bring you both, Indra and Vayu, hitherward to drink the Soma, to the feast. Hither, O Indra Vayu, be your journey. Here unyoke your steeds. Here for your draught of Soma juice. Then next across the finish line come Mitra and Varuna in a legitimate tie. Mitra and Varuna share in the second oblation. Their pairing here is essential. Mitra represents the priesthood, the Brahmin caste, and hence wisdom and truth in speech, while Varuna signifies nobility, Kshatriya caste, and thus power and truth in action. It is imperative that a king, Varuna, empowered with great authority, be guided by wisdom and truth in speech, Mitra. For this reason, Mitra and Varuna share in the second libation from the Maitra Varuna vessel. Behind them are the Ashvins, who win the third cup of Soma. Curiously, they cross the finish line riding upon a donkey. There's another legend in the Ashvini section you can read about, or if you check that out on that video, where we read that the Ashvins are privy to the third Soma libation of the morning in exchange for their grand feat of reattaching the head of the sacrifice. In any case, thus, this Aitareya Brahmana legend recounts how it is that 3 sets of Devatadvas, I always get this word wrong, Devatadvandvas, the co-devatas, are awarded the first Soma pressing of the day. Indra Vayu, Mitra Varuna, and the Ashvini Kumaras. The story is told in a humorous light, yet it holds great symbolic import. Soma is the draught of bliss-filled consciousness, the resultant state of an illumined mind. The sequencing of the morning Soma Devatas and their pairings is of considerable significance as for what this illumination and self-realization means. The sacrificial day begins with Ushas, the dawn, paving a path for the rising of Surya, the sun. As dawn gives way to sunlight, Agni is rekindled. The light from above, Surya, and from below, Agni, intermix as if but a single light, as the last of the darkness is transformed into radiant brilliance. As illustrated below, the transformation of darkness into light, avidya, ignorance, into vidya, wisdom, is esoterically depicted in the sequencing of the devatvandvas of the morning Soma ceremony. It is time for the gods to quench themselves of the sweet Soma libation. Vayu consumes 3/4 of the first libation, and Indra the remaining 1/4. Figuratively represented by Vayu and his team of 1,000 steeds. The vital breaths are first purified by the Soma draft, followed by the mind, here represented by Indra. Interesting. You can read about the Mrigashirsha, the chapter on Soma and the Mrigashirsha, in the video that we did on that. It's interesting again that the vital breaths are first purified by the Soma draft, and then the mind is purified by the Soma draft. When divinity and illumination occurs, the breath is stilled into a pure calmness. We could also say a breath stilled in pure calmness is significative of someone who has had the enlightenment experience as well. But that's not in the book. That's my own words. In this manner, the nervous mentality, the breath combined with the mind, that's Indra Vayu, is transformed into a single vehicle for transmission of divine light. In Sri Aurobindo's words, Indra and Vayu awaken in consciousness to the flowings of the Soma wine. That is to say, the mind power, Indra, and life power, Vayu, working together in human mentality, are to awaken to the inflowings of this Ananda, the Soma, this Amrita, this delight and immortality from above. That comes from a book called Secret of the Veda, page 74. I'm going to write that down because every time I read that in this book, I forget that I have the intention to buy that book. Amazing. Now, next to partake of Soma are Mitra and Varuna, godheads of right speech and action, respectively. Right speech and action are products of the intellect and its faculty of discrimination. Positioned as Mitra Varuna, Mitra and Varuna are undivided, interdependent forces of right discernment, divinized. Hence, as with the nervous mentality, Indra Vayu, the discriminating intellect, Mitra Varuna, is purified and cleansed through the Soma Yagna. Indeed, according to Aurobindo, proper nervous mentality, Indra Vayu, and proper intellect, Mitra Varuna, are reliant upon each other. Now lastly, the Ashvini Kumaras partake of the Soma. They too are Devatvandvas, combined gods. Yet uniquely nowhere are they afforded separate names. Each epithet applies to both of them, e.g. the Ashvins, Nashatyas, kind and helpful aids, Dashras, accomplishing wonderful deeds, and all others. They're always a unit. As inseparable godheads, the Ashvins are declared in the scriptures to be the Udana, the upward moving, and the Apana, the downward moving breath. Interesting. Recall that the divine twins are conceived from an exchange of breaths by their horse parents. Henceforth, they are associated with the inhalation and exhalation of breath. Amazing. Representing the inhalation and exhalation of prana, the Ashvins are secondary aspects of Vayu, the breath, and the expressive force behind speech and action, i.e. Mitra and Varuna, respectively. Likewise, the Ashvins are declared the dual Indriyas, i.e. the two ears, the two eyes, the two nostrils, and hands and arms. With their nimble hands and arms, they restore sight to the blind and hearing to the deaf. In such capacity, they are also secondary instruments of the mind, or Indra. Here, the Ashvins, partakers of the third Soma libation, are critical support factors behind the nervous mentality of Indra Vayu and the discriminating intellect of Mitra Varuna. Wonderful. Drenched in the morning Soma libation, all faculties of knowledge are cleansed and purified. The darkness of the night, avidya, is shattered into a million fragments as true awareness, the brilliant light of vidya, overtakes the sacrificer, transporting him into the bliss-filled state of Soma-ananda. Soma-ananda, the bliss of Soma. Wonderful. So this will be our last little section here. These are post-Vedic legends. In the Puranas, Vayu retains many of his Vedic traits and qualities. For example, he is declared the charioteer of Indra and summoned by the gods when a destination must be reached quickly. So this is the post-Vedic legends of the Puranas, which are a different breed. These are like the New Testament of Vedic literature. As the vital breath in the Puranas, he is eulogized for a long life. Let thee, O Agni, grant me energy. Let Vayu grant me life. Let earth grant me nourishment and strength. And let water grant me prosperity. That comes from Mahabharata. Now, as is typical of post-Vedic legends, certain attributes of this wind god are greatly embellished. The Puranas are a little bit more illustrative in their depictions of characters. Vayu continues to fuel the sacrificial flames of Agni. However, he now serves as an accomplice to Agni's outlandish exploits, such as the burning of Khandava forest. This is a classic story in the Vedas. Hutasana Agni proceeded with great speed and soon reached the forest of Khandava in great vigor. Arriving there, he suddenly blazed forth in anger, assisted by Vayu. And that also comes from the Mahabharata. You can also read about that in the chapter on Agni. With the force of Vayu behind him, Agni indiscriminately burns an entire forest and thousands of creatures residing within Khandava. In the Mahabharata, Vayu fathers two sons, each possessing extraordinary strength, great prowess, and largeness of limbs. One of them is Bhima, whom Vayu begets to Pandu's wife, Kunti. So there's sort of a divine birth of Vayu's son through Kunti. That's part of the whole Mahabharata legend, is that all of the children of the Pandavas are born of gods. It's the Deva, the divine part of ourselves, coming into birth. Now, in the Ramayana, Vayu seduces the Asparas Angyana, who subsequently gives birth to Hanuman. Like his father, Hanuman is capable of flying through the air with great speed and strength. In youthful beauty, wondrous fair, a crown of flowers about her, Angana, about her hair. In silken robes of richest dye, she roamed the hills that kiss the sky. Once in her tinted garments dressed, she stood upon the mountain crest. The god of wind beside her came, and breathed upon the lovely dame. As he fanned her robe aside, the wondrous beauty that he eyed, and rounded lines of breast and limb, and neck and shoulder, ravished him. And captured by her peerless charms, he strained her in his amorous arms. Then to the eager god she cried, in trembling accents terrified, "Whose impious love has wronged a spouse so constant? Whose impious love has wronged a spouse so constant in her nuptial vows?" He heard, and thus his answer made, "Oh, be not troubled nor afraid, but trust, and thou shalt know ere long my love has done thee, sweet, no wrong. So strong and brave and wise shall be the glorious child Hanuman I give to thee. Might shall make this that naught can tire, and limbs to spring as springs his sire. Might shall be his that naught can tire, and limbs to spring as springs his sire." That's a nice little English translation of the Ramayana. Canto, one of the cantos looks like LXVI. I think that would be 68. I'm not sure what L means. I think it means 50. It's a nice little translation of the Ramayana there. But I digress. Instead of a chariot drawn by 1,000 horses, Vayu's Puranic Vahana, this vehicle, is an antelope. The antelope mirrors the inherent attributes of Vayu. For example, an antelope is known for its swiftness of foot and ability to thrive in remote terrains. Smaller breeds of antelope tend to display a solitary nature. In his iconographic figure, Vayu waves a flag, alerting to others to his direction and power. The Nakshatra Kalpaha declares this god of the wind as the flag of the air. Matarishvan, the eater of the best essences, who having become propitious, giving life, frequents the mouths of them that breathe. May he, the flag of the air, the support of all creatures, the god Vayu, together with Swati, the Nakshatra, protect us. And that comes from a certain text, which can be abbreviated as NPA. And what that stands for is the Nakshatra Kalpaha Parishishta. That's partly the reason what we can see here is that the Nakshatra Swati, its symbol is a young shoot, which, like the flag, bends to the pressure of Vayu. The young shoot also depicts Vayu's ability to uproot those things unable to match his force. That is how Vayu rolls. Beautiful rendition. That's Divine Forces of the Lunar Nakshatras as portrayed in the Vedas by the author Radha. It's been a pleasure to read her writing. It makes me think like, oh, one of these days I'd love to if I ever get famous, I'd like to make a movie about all this stuff. That sits in my brain all the time. But it is pleasurable enough for those of us in today's time. We don't have to do anything special with it. We just have to read the Veda. And this is at least the fat trimmings of the Veda compared to the actual Veda. But nonetheless, we are reading what we can. It's not a bad thing to read the work of an author who has done the Coles Notes, who have meticulously taken the essences of the Vedas and put it in a way that we are privileged to read in a modern context in today's time with the minds that we have. So I'm very thankful to the author Radha for being able to read her book, and to everybody here for watching. It's always nice to see you, everybody. My name is Dustin Cormier. This has been How to Rock Astrology. Keep your mind open and keep your eyes peeled, because I've always got more stuff coming out. I thank you very much, and I'll see you guys the next time I see you on a video. Thanks for watching.